Doctor Who, Terror of the Sontarans.
The events of the last few days have driven us to the edge of madness and beyond. I've just sealed half my crew in the caves after they tried killing the rest of us. The others are upstairs in the observation deck worshipping the stones. We knew what we were doing when we signed up, but none of our training prepared us for any of this.
I will blast you to atoms.
Small your eyes, poor your aim.
Come then, lost Jordan. I will tear the shell off you.
Think, Case, think. You're a Sontaran warrior, but you're intelligent too, an officer. You're meant to be brains as well as brawn.
Do you insult me further, sir?
Not so fast, you.
Let go of me! Get off!
Taste my claws, Eggman!
Hello and welcome YouTubers and Doctor Who fanatics to my review of Terror of the Sontarans, which is the final story from the 7th Doctor and Mel trilogy, which stars Sylvester McCoy and Bonnie Lanford playing the 7th Doctor and Mel, and it is written by John Dorney, who has done a collaboration with Dan Starkey for this full cast audio drama. So if you're going to go straight to the review of Terror of the Sontarans and you want to see how this audio is showcased, there is the time on the bottom of the screen to the review. If you have or haven't skipped, let's begin the video. So for the front cover we have the 7th Doctor looking pretty serious by there, with Field Major Case standing up front on the cover. It's got some really nice detail in this cover, as you can see a red spark by there, and it reflects off his armour, also a blue glare behind the Sontaran, and we have him reflecting by there. So yeah, some really nice detailing in this cover, with some crystals everywhere. With that room, I believe, being the main computer system room, with a Sontaran ship by there. And we have the undergrounds to the mining facility. And then the standard stuff, brand new adventures, forecast audio drama, the new adventures of Doctor Who, all the standard stuff. So for the side of the release, we have the 7th Doctor picture, Doctor Who, the Terror of the Sontarans, 203 with a Big Finish logo. And for the back, it is directed by Ken Bedley. I've got a lot of scratches on mine, unfortunately. Looks like a cat's been on it. And we have a bio on the story, which I'll place in the description, with the cast and who played the characters. And the running time is 120 minutes approx, including the coming soon trailer for Crisscross, the music score of Terror of the Sontarans, and behind the scenes. And when we open the CD case, we are presented with the leaflet and the 2 discs, part 1 and part 2, part 3 and part 4, with advertisements for other Sontaran stories at the top, which is Starlight Robbery, one of the later ones in the 7th Doctor's timeline, Heroes of Sontar, and the first Sontarans A Lost Story, and some other ones down here like Red, and the other 2 within the 7th Doctor and Mel trilogy, We Are the Daleks and The Warehouse. And we have the leaflet. If we open it up, we have the next installment, which is Crisscross, also released this month in September. Well, it's October now. It was released in September, just like Terror of the Sontarans. It has been dispatched, and I think it'll be coming very soon, so that's good, because out of the 2, Crisscross was the one I wanted more. Then Doctor Who magazine, production credits, and with the leaflet you can choose which variation of the cover you want, with the normal one and the 7th Doctor variation. Now to my review of Terror of the Sontarans. Yeah, as you know, if you've seen my review for We Are the Daleks and The Warehouse, they were really good stories. And it would be a big shame if the final story within the trilogy would be underwhelming or bad in any way. So for the summary of the story, the Doctor and Mel land on a mining facility, which looks like a conflict happened there with broken architecture of the facility, laser fire marks and damage. And yeah, by the title of the story, it involves the Sontarans. And the original group of the Sontarans, which were there first, something happened to them, and now there is a second group coming to the mining facility. So that was the brief summary. Now I'll be going into the in-depth review, part 1 to part 4. I will say the introduction to this story is quite creepy, and I do like that, with Mel hearing stuff within the facility and the Doctor saying it's just your imagination. So I think it starts quite similar to The Warehouse. So part 1 quite well introduces us to the setting and the condition of the mining facility, and also some supporting characters being Ketch and Anvil Jackson. And another interesting one which is Stetimer, who was played very well by John Banks. Very feral and insane. I'll get into Stetimer later on. Yeah, I would say part 1 I feel a bit of Ark in Space in it a little bit. So yeah, quite early on this story does deliver some comedy, which I don't mind. I don't mind it here and there, but nothing too much overwhelming like Suburban Hell. But yeah, I always like a bit here and there. And this is one of the supporting characters as Mel does self-defense on Anvil Jackson, who looks like a right wimp after that. No idea how he got the rank of Colonel. He doesn't even feel like he deserves that rank. So yeah, I have no idea how he earned that title of rank. As to me, he doesn't feel like a character with any military power, but more of a wimp, and then at times feels like he fancies himself a little bit. Yeah, I'll get into characters later on. Yeah, the Sontarans get into the story near the end of part 1. And yeah, what part 1 was trying to do and achieve is to set up the location so the listener can understand what's the situation and what's happened. And with introducing the human supporting characters such as Ketch, Jackson and Tenefka. Part 1 is basically a setup, I would say. It sets up the story. I was thinking, yeah, it's probably just getting the story ready and then it will build up. That's what I was expecting Terror of the Sontarans to be doing. But it did make me want to continue the story, so I guess that's a good thing. I really wanted it to get into the action now, as it took all of part 1 to set it up. Yeah, hopefully part 2 will be a build up now. And yeah, the cliffhanger as well is a standard one, nothing to talk about it. Now going into part 2, I quite like the character Tenefka. I don't think her dialogue will be everyone's cup of tea, but yeah, I quite like her with her compassion side. To make someone live who did crimes in the past, who is now very weak and sick. So yeah, I quite like Tenefka, some very interesting stuff with her. Yeah, it does get more interesting for the Sontarans, and it seems like they're having the most listening time in the story rather than the Doctor and Mel or any of the supporting characters. They seem to be more of a focus now and having the most listening time. So yeah, it gets much more interesting with the Sontarans. I'm not going to go into detail with that. Some of them are quite different from each other, and it does lead in sort of a mystery thing. So yeah, it gets quite interesting. It's not building up an awful lot. The story doesn't seem to have a lot of energy at this point. It was doing everything rather slow. So I was hoping it would pick up some steam, as it is still on the same tier as part 1. So early part 2, still nothing with huge energy. So yeah, the Doctor and Mel do get split up pretty quickly in this story. And this is in part 1, I forgot to mention. As Mel is interacting with some of the characters, the human characters, and the Doctor is in a dangerous situation being quite near the Sontarans. And as of yet hasn't interacted with any supporting characters as of yet, but sticking to the shadows of the story. And not going into the story head on into the action straight away. Mostly keeping away, like, into the side of the story. And he's still trying to access the system, which he was doing in part 1. Again, feeling quite tedious, doing things rather slow. Now yeah, we do have some funny dialogue from the Sontarans, and I don't think there's anything bad at the moment, and I never think I would say that, but yeah, I found it was alright, the comedy. I didn't hate it as of now, but yeah, it's not everyone's cup of tea, as people don't like the Sontarans to be a source of fun. Not downright silly comedy right now, it's just like one-liners. But still they have the side of feeling a bit of a threat, so I guess that's good. So we're halfway through part 2 and it's still feeling rather tedious and slow, as it's taking far too long to do everything. No action or anything like that, it's just taking an awful long time for anything interesting to happen. The Sontarans are doing one thing and everyone else is doing another thing. It just takes too long to do stuff, this story. Still enjoying it, but I wish it just hurries up a little bit. But I will say it does have more creepy stuff with the Sontaran scenes. With quite creepy music and sound design, have no idea who... Oh yeah, Andy Harwick did it. So yeah, brilliant sound design and music. And yeah, the Doctor does finally interact with some characters who is Jackson. And apparently the Doctor can hear a ghost voice. I wasn't really getting that. Maybe I lost something in the earlier stages, but it just like happened right out of the blue to me. Alright, now this is where the comedy becomes a bit of a worry now. It was fine in bits in part 2, but as it continued, the Sontarans were pretty damn silly and a joke. Field Major Case seems to be the only true Sontaran, and bits of Commander Claff. Some other Sontarans being quite interesting, like Steg for example, but Castor seems the only one that feels like an actual Sontaran. I won't see what that scene is, but I find it absolutely ridiculous. Still, I guess there were a little bit of threats, but the comedy was just far too over the top. Now, the cliffhanger of part 2 does show that the Sontarans are not just the big guys of the story, but something underneath the base. So I was hoping, yes, are we going to some base under siege sort of thing? No, we don't do that, just to let you know. Yeah, part 2 was good, but still nothing brilliant at this point in time. Some things really annoyed me, and the story still taking far too long, and it feels a little bit dragged out. So yeah, let's see if the second half actually gets some build up. Now to part 3. And I guess it sort of feels like a threat is building up with part 2's cliffhanger. Yeah, we could talk a bit more about Jackson as he's more of a focus now. Someone who fancies himself. Yeah, he's a bit of a conceited character. I don't really like characters like that who fancy themselves. I do prefer Ketch to Jackson and also to Nefka. Well, I seem to like Nefka even more, I do. As her dialogue is very unique and calls the Sontarans deluded. Yeah, I completely agree with you with that. So the story was trying to tell us that something big is going to happen, a big attack or a threat growing. And it still doesn't do it. It's telling it's going to happen, but where is it? It's taking a damn long time for it to happen. As the dialogue explains, the darkness is coming, things like that. No, it wasn't. It took ages. I'll say it to you, it took about part 4, somewhere in part 4, where the actual threat got into action. That is too late, that is. It should have been done in part 3. The biggest weakness of Terror of the Sontarans, it takes too long to do everything. So to explain Terror of the Sontarans, it is a bit of a slog. I gotta admit, it's a slog. And just convoluted. So I was pretty demoralised what part 4 was going to do. Is it going to rush into the action? Are we going to get what it's building up to? Or am I going to be underwhelmed? So part 4, I will say, does something quite similar to Enemy of the Daleks, which I quite like because I do love Enemy of the Daleks. As in that story, there was a big challenge with the Daleks. I know in this one, the Sontarans have a big challenge to do. And yeah, finally the threat gets into the story, and they are really good. I like them, their voices are brilliant. But yeah, they were introduced far too late, far too late. It should have been a lot earlier, as we don't really know nothing about them. I don't even recall their names being mentioned. I don't think their names or their species were even mentioned. I might have missed it, but I don't recall their species being named. So yeah, part 4 we do get more action, but nothing which has a wow factor. So now to characters and performances, we have the Dr. Sylvester McCoy. Great performances by Sylvester McCoy, of course, he's always great. But nothing outstanding in his role. There's nothing where I thought, wow, that was great, wow, that was unpredictable, nothing like that. Nothing compared to Wheel of the Daleks or The Warehouse, as I found him more interesting when he was written in those stories rather than this one. So that was a bit underwhelming to me. Next up we have Mel, Bonnie Lamford, still got her computer skills in this story, which I do like. Also it's like that with all the other stories. And interacted the most with the human supporting characters and also the Sontarans. Now we come to supporting characters, and yeah, they were alright, a bit monotonous, but yeah, they were fine, nothing bad, but nothing good either. But I said there was one standout one which I really like, and it is Ketch, which is Daniel... Oh, sorry, I'm going to have to turn it over. Daniel O'Meara. And yeah, I would say he was my favourite supporting character out of all of them. And it looks like we might see a little bit more of him. Maybe another story as the ending sort of hints that, but maybe not. But I would like it too, as I quite like Ketch as a character. Next up we have John Bond, who played the characters Anvil Jackson and Technician Geit. Anvil Jackson was a bit of a character who fancies himself. You know, a bit of a cocky character. That doesn't really deserve the Colonel rank, and I have no idea how he got that rank. And Technician Geit, who is an absolute moron. He had some good scenes in places, but he was silly. And he said human technology is primitive and he doesn't even know how to use it. Or hack it. Yeah, why call it primitive when you don't even know how to use it? Yeah, Technician Guy was a bit of a joke of a Sontaran. But still, John Bond voiced him very well. Next up, Tenefka, which is Andre Bernard. Liked her dialogue, quite unique and interesting when the story goes along with the direction of her character. I'll leave her quiet. Next up we have Dan Starkey, who played multiple Sontaran roles such as Field Major Case, Steg and Stod. Field Major Case was the main Sontaran in the story, and yeah, very good, best of the bunch of all the Sontarans. Used a lot of hostility in this story, which I like, and that's what Sontarans are supposed to do. Steg is an interesting Sontaran, I'm not going to go into him, and Stod I don't remember absolutely anything of, sorry. Next up we have John Banks, who voiced two characters, which is Commander Clark and Stetimer. John Banks did a really good job, especially with Stetimer, as he's got a very fell and aggressive voice. Yeah, very impressive voice acting by John Banks. And lastly, John Dorney, who did a small role, which is Glar. Just a little audio playback scene and that's it. I'm not sure about my favourite performer because none of them were like a highlight to me. But yeah, perhaps Mel. I'd probably say Mel, as she's pretty badass using self-defense to make Anvil Jackson look like a wimp. So yeah, I'll probably say Mel. And yeah, also on the behind the scenes of the story, Dan Starkey did tease a future story that he will be in. Most likely a Sontaran one. Didn't really confirm an actual date. So what is my final verdict on Terror of the Sontarans? It does set up the story rather well, but it just takes far too long to do everything. It's so convoluted. I didn't want the trilogy to end like this. We Are the Daleks and Warehouse were great, and then we end on a not very impressive story in my opinion. The Sontarans were good, but some of the comedy was rather silly, and making them a source of fun like Heroes of Sontar is not a good thing, and I would say never do it again. And hopefully this next Sontaran story will be something dark and suspenseful, and what Sontarans are supposed to be like, brutes. I rate Terror of the Sontarans a 6 out of 10. I haven't looked on any other reviews, but I've asked other people, which I know, and it's been rather mixed. Some people didn't like the story and some people thought the story was fantastic. So it's been rather mixed, but I think it just wasn't a very good story. It wasn't well executed, this one. I would say it was overhyped. Would I recommend it? No, not really. You could probably snatch it off Amazon now because it is out on Amazon right now. I see offers under £10 for it, so yeah, I would say pick it up. I wouldn't pay £15 for it because you're paying £15 for something which you may not like. So yeah, go for Amazon or eBay for this one. Or if you didn't like the sound of it, just miss it. So that was my video on Terror of the Sontarans, and I'll be looking a bit about the trilogy and rating it. So what do I think about the 7th Doctor and Mel trilogy? Well yeah, I think it's a good trilogy with one sensational story, which is We Are the Daleks. And also the middle story being absolutely brilliant, The Warehouse. It's just a shame last story let it down, but it is a much improvement from the Logan Doctor's trilogy, as I didn't really like any of the stories within the trilogy, but these two are absolutely fantastic. Yeah, I would say each of the stories do have something unique about them, and also something unique about capturing the 7th Doctor's character, such as We Are the Daleks captures his funny but taunting side to his Doctor, as he really does speak down to the Daleks, and yeah, We Are the Daleks is the most experimental and creative of this trilogy. Well, that's Jonathan Morris in a nutshell anyway, creativity. The Warehouse definitely captures his Virgin New Adventures side, being very dark and threatening a civilization on the planet. If you do not change your ways, then I'll let you rot. So that definitely shows the darker side of the 7th Doctor, which is very interesting. And to the Sontarans, I guess it does something unique for the Sontarans, very similar to Enemy of the Daleks. But yeah, nothing really for the 7th Doctor's character, maybe. No, I can't really think of anything. Yeah, definitely with these two stories there is something different about the 7th Doctor. I think he's rather standard in that one. So I rate the 7th Doctor and Mel trilogy a 8 out of 10. We Are the Daleks definitely picks it up because that is a 10 out of 10 story. in my opinion. Yeah, as I said, a lot better than the Locum Doctors trilogy, a much improvement. Definitely pick up Way of the Daleks and The Warehouse. If you're interested in Terror of the Sontarans still, then fair enough, pick it up. You may like it. Everyone has different tastes. And we do have the 6th Doctor and Constance trilogy starting, as Chris Cross has came out. And I like to feel optimistic, and I'm going to think that is going to be the best trilogy for 2015 from the monthly range. So thank you for watching my review of Terror of the Sontarans. If you enjoyed it and want to see more Big Finish content, there's a huge variety on the channel, and of course future Big Finish stuff coming up. Subscribe if you love Big Finish and classic Doctor Who content. So I will see you in the next one for Return to Telos. See you in that review. Goodbye and have a good one.